All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a whole bunch of LinkedIn recommendations that you guys have sent us for this guy, Paolo Fontana.
Oh, yeah.
And we're trying to figure out what kind of leader is this guy? Like, what are his strengths, weaknesses, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And this deep dive covers like over a decade of opinions about this guy.
Yeah. We've got a lot to work with.
We've got rave reviews,
Uh-huh.
but also some hints that he might be kind of a tough negotiator.
Yeah. So we can definitely trace his career path through these recommendations
Mm-hmm.
and get a sense of how his approach to leadership has evolved over time.
Okay.
So let's start at the beginning
Yeah.
with Paolo's early career at Technicolor.
Okay.
A lot of emphasis on his international experience right out of the gate.
Yeah, he held all sorts of different financial roles with assignments like all over the globe.
Exactly. Not just like crunching numbers in a back office somewhere.
Right.
This guy was out there.
Yeah.
And that kind of experience early on often signals adaptability and a global mindset, which are pretty valuable.
For sure.
And this is something we see reflected in Ming Lu's recommendation, who specifically mentions Paolo's ability to bridge the gap between client services and production
Interesting.
during a really complex software implementation
Oh, wow.
in Bangkok.
So not just like a finance guy, but someone who can actually like connect with all the different departments,
Right.
get everyone on the same page.
Think about what it takes to bridge that gap, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a high-pressure situation,
Oh, yeah.
like a software rollout
Uh-huh.
in a foreign country.
Yeah.
You need communication skills.
Yeah.
You need diplomacy and a knack for understanding all these different perspectives.
Totally.
These are qualities that often translate well into leadership roles.
That's a really good point.
So it seems like he was already showing leadership potential pretty early on in his career.
Yeah, and speaking of strong skills, there are a lot of glowing recommendations about Paolo's financial expertise.
Oh yeah, he's a sharp guy.
Like one person even calls him an accountant's accountant.
Yeah, Andrea Rayano, who worked with Paolo at Technicolor, highlights his ability to not just manage finances,
Mm-hmm.
but to build these sophisticated reporting tools,
Mm-hmm.
almost like mini systems
Oh, wow.
that gave executives real-time insights into the business,
That's amazing.
which is huge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because in the past, you would have to wait for these monthly or quarterly
Yeah,
reports,
yeah.
but he was giving them like up-to-the-minute information.
Yeah, it's like he was thinking ahead of the curve.
Right.
I mean, she also mentions his ability to kind of spot potential financial issues before they even happen.
Yeah.
It's like he has some kind of sixth sense for these things.
That attention to detail and proactive approach is super valuable.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to a larger trend that we're seeing in business,
What's that?
the rise of data-driven decision-making.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not just about being good with numbers anymore. It's about using those numbers to inform strategy.
So it's like using the data to make those big decisions.
Exactly. And Paolo's ability to build these tools right,
Yeah.
to not just crunch numbers, but to extract meaning from them,
Right.
and then present that information in a way that executives can actually use to make decisions.
Yeah.
That's gold.
That's a sought-after skill.
Yeah, in any industry.
It makes you wonder, though, does this guy prefer working with spreadsheets more than people?
Right.
I'm just kidding. But it sounds like he's not just a numbers guy.
Yeah.
He's able to actually use his financial expertise to make a real impact on the business.
And that's the key takeaway here. When you're assessing someone's financial acumen, don't just look at their technical skills.
Okay.
Look for that ability to connect the dots,
Yeah.
to see the big picture, and to use financial data to drive strategy and results.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Paolo's leadership style.
All right.
We've got feedback from a lot of people who actually reported to him, and it seems like a common theme that emerges is his approachability
Okay.
and his willingness to listen.
Yeah, that's something that comes up repeatedly in these recommendations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, several people talk about his open door policy and how he genuinely values input from his team.
Okay.
For example, Marta Estevarez, who worked under Paolo, describes him as intelligent, methodical, organized, rigorous.
Okay, so he has high standards.
Yeah. But she also emphasizes that he's someone who allows for professional development.
So he's invested in helping his team grow.
Right. Think about the impact that that kind of leadership can have on morale and productivity.
Yeah.
When people feel like their voices are heard and their contributions are valued, they're more likely to be engaged and committed to their work.
Totally.
And it sounds like Paolo understands that.
Yeah, I mean, Juan Carlos Rodriguez, who worked with Paolo, calls him the best general director he's ever had.
Wow.
And he specifically mentions Paolo's ability to be both demanding and supportive,
Yeah.
like pushing his team to be their best,
Right.
but also fostering a really positive and collaborative environment.
That ability to balance high expectations with support and encouragement is crucial.
Yeah.
It's about setting a clear vision and challenging your team to reach their full potential.
Yep.
But also providing the resources and guidance that they need to succeed.
Yeah, so it sounds like he strikes a good balance.
It seems like it.
However, amidst all this praise,
Oh.
there are a few comments that suggest Paolo might have a bit of a tougher side.
Oh.
Sean Cybers mentions that Paolo is a tough person to negotiate with.
That's an interesting point, and whether that's a positive or negative trait
Yeah.
really depends on the context.
Right.
A strong negotiator can be a valuable asset in certain situations, but it could also create friction in others.
It all comes down to how that trait manifests in different situations.
Right.
So we're starting to see a bit of duality here in Paolo's leadership style.
Yeah.
He's approachable
Uh-huh.
and supportive,
Yeah.
but he also knows how to drive a hard bargain.
Right.
I wonder how that plays out in his next role.
Well, that's something we can explore further as we look into Paolo's time at Malta Enterprise.
Okay, let's do it.
His role there as Chief Officer of Corporate Affairs for both Malta Enterprise and Malta Industrial Parks seems to have required a lot of negotiation.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially when you're dealing with multiple organizations and stakeholders.
Right. And Edwin Ebinger, who reported to Paolo at Malta Enterprise, really emphasizes Paolo's proactive approach to negotiations.
Okay.
He's not just like sitting back and reacting to situations.
Uh-huh.
He's actively seeking out opportunities to avoid conflict and reduce costs for the organization.
So it's like he's bringing that same sharp financial mind to the negotiating table.
Exactly. He's not just trying to win at all costs.
Yeah.
He's looking for solutions that benefit everyone involved.
I like that.
And when we combine that with the comments about his strong work ethic and dedication, we see a pattern emerging.
Okay, I'm listening.
Paolo seems to approach every challenge with this laser focus on efficiency,
Okay.
effectiveness, and achieving the best possible outcome for the organization.
So his financial expertise and his leadership skills really come together there.
Right. He's able to use his analytical mind to identify problems.
Yep.
His negotiation skills to find solutions,
Mm-hmm.
and his leadership skills to rally his team and get things done.
That's a powerful combination.
It is. We also see this reflected in Mario Farigia's comment that Paolo is a good listener who takes the best from his team members.
So he's not just like a top-down leader.
No, he recognizes the value of different perspectives
Uh-huh.
and encourages collaboration,
He's not a lone wolf in the finance department.
even though he's clearly capable of handling a lot on his own. He understands that achieving organizational goals requires a collective effort, and he's willing to listen to his team and empower them to contribute.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've seen Paolo's international experience,
Yeah.
his financial acumen, his leadership style, and even his approach to negotiation. Now, taking a step back, what's the overall picture that we're getting of Paolo?
Well, it seems like we're seeing a pretty consistent portrayal of a leader who is highly skilled in finance, incredibly dedicated and results-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this strong work ethic, a keen eye for detail, and an analytical mind that allows him to identify opportunities and solve problems effectively.
We've also heard that he's approachable and willing to listen to his team,
Yeah.
but that he can also be a tough negotiator.
Right.
Could that be a potential challenge for him?
It's possible that apparent duality in his leadership style, being both supportive and demanding, could create friction if not managed carefully.
Okay.
It's important to remember that context is key.
Right.
What works in one situation might not work in another.
So while this blend of approachability and tough negotiation skills could be an asset in some situations,
Yeah.
it could also be something to watch out for,
Right.
especially in environments that require a more collaborative or consensus-driven approach.
Absolutely. And it's also important to remember that these recommendations are just one perspective.
That's true.
LinkedIn recommendations, by their very nature, tend to skew towards positive feedback.
That's a good point. These recommendations are valuable, but they're not the whole story.
Right.
It's always a good idea to gather information from multiple sources,
Uh-huh.
talk to people who have worked with him in different capacities, and really try to get a well-rounded perspective.
I agree. Speaking of different perspectives, One thing that stands out to me is the variety of skills and qualities that are highlighted in these recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
We see comments about Paolo's technical expertise,
Mm-hmm.
his leadership skills, his communication style, his problem-solving abilities, even his mentorship skills.
That's true. There are a lot of different facets to his professional persona.
Like, for example, Sarah Starkey mentioned how he helped her develop her financial modeling skills,
Oh, cool.
showing that he's not just a brilliant financial mind,
Yeah.
but also someone who is willing to share his knowledge and mentor others.
That's a hallmark of great leadership.
It's not just about achieving your own success.
Right.
It's about helping those around you develop their skills and reach their full potential.
It seems like Paolo might be one of those people who leave a lasting impact on those they work with,
Yeah.
not just through their accomplishments, but also through their willingness to guide and support others.
And that's something that goes beyond technical skills or leadership style.
Yeah.
It speaks to character
Uh-huh.
and a genuine desire to help others succeed.
It also suggests that he might be more comfortable in a larger, more established organization
Okay.
where he can build those relationships and mentor teams.
That's an interesting point. We haven't talked much about Paolo's entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
Could someone with his skill set and drive thrive in a startup environment?
Hmm.
Or is he better suited for a more structured corporate setting?
That's a great question, and it highlights the importance of fit when it comes to leadership.
Yeah.
A successful leader in one environment might not necessarily thrive in another.
It's exactly. A lot depends on the specific challenges and opportunities presented by the organization,
Yeah.
the industry, and even the broader economic climate.
It's almost like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Right.
Sometimes it just doesn't work no matter how skilled or talented the person is.
That's why it's so important to gather as much information as possible
Yeah.
before making any judgments or decisions.
Don't rely on one source or one perspective.
Talk to different people, research the company, and try to understand the dynamics at play.
And most importantly, trust your instincts.
Yeah, if something doesn't feel right,
Uh-huh.
even if you can't put your finger on it,
Yep.
dig a little deeper.
So to wrap things up, it seems like Paolo Fontana is a complex and intriguing figure.
He is.
He's a financial whiz with a proven track record of success,
Yeah.
but also someone who inspires both admiration and a touch of caution.
That duality is what makes him so fascinating.
And it's a reminder that leadership is rarely black and white.
Right.
The most effective leaders are often those who can embrace nuance.
And adapt their style to different situations.
Paolo's story is a valuable case study in that regard.
Yeah.
It's given us a lot to think about in terms of our own leadership journeys
Right.
and how we approach evaluating potential leaders.
So as you continue your own deep dive into Paolo Fontana
Yes.
and other leaders who pique your interest, remember to keep an open mind,
Absolutely.
ask critical questions,
Uh-huh.
and trust your gut.
Happy deep diving.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how someone like Paolo, someone who seems to really thrive in these structured environments,
Yeah.
would handle like all the ambiguity and that rapid pace of a startup.
It really makes you think about all the different flavors of leadership out there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he'd be that steady hand that a fledgling company needs.
Right.
Or maybe he'd be like totally frustrated by the lack of, established processes and procedures.
There's really no way to know without like seeing him in action.
Right.
But that's kind of what makes this whole thing so interesting, right?
Yeah, like we can look at someone's track record and analyze their strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, leadership is about so much more than just a set of skills.
It's about how you apply those skills, how you adapt to different situations,
Yeah,
and how you connect with the people around you.
Yeah.
It's dynamic.
it is.
And the most effective leaders are the ones who can like embrace that dynamism and evolve along the way.
So for everyone listening out there, what can we take away from this deep dive into Paolo Fontana?
Well, it seems like he's a pretty impressive leader on paper,
Yeah.
but there are also some questions about how his style would translate to different environments.
Absolutely. And that's the key takeaway here. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to leadership.
Definitely not what works for one person might not work for another.
It's about understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, identifying the kind of environments where you'll thrive, and being open to learning and adapting along the way.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Seek out different perspectives and challenge your own assumptions.
Just like we've done today, right?
Yes, exactly.
We've taken these LinkedIn recommendations, dug beneath the surface, and tried to get a more nuanced understanding of what makes Paolo tick.
And in the process, we've learned some valuable lessons about leadership.
Yeah,
Not just about Paolo specifically,
right.
but about the different ways that people can lead and the challenges and opportunities that come with different leadership styles.
So, as you continue to explore the world of leadership, remember that every individual is unique.
Uh-huh.
There's no magic formula for success.
So,
It's all about finding what works for you, for your team, and for the organization you're trying to build.
and never stop learning.
Oh, let's go.
Every interaction, every experience can teach you something new about leadership and about yourself.
That's a great note to end on. Keep learning, keep growing, and happy deep diving, everyone.